This is Granada. Well, now we join the commentary team at Vale Park for the Granada match, live.
Here, who's this then? The new halfback? No, I promised to babysit. Should have dropped him off at the creche. I'm going to drop him off somewhere. My arm's killing me. Oh.
Yellow Pages, supporters of the Granada match live.
There are similarities between Port Vale and Tranmere Rovers, living in the shadows of trendier neighbours. They can both relate to that, as I'm sure we'll see on the Granada match live this afternoon. Neat and tidy football, they both believe that's the way to play it. Well, a very good afternoon to you. It's not been easy putting Tranmere Rovers and Port Vale on the map. The fundamental problem with Port Vale, of course, is that they're not actually on the map, as Rob McCaffrey explains.
You know, there's no such place as Port Vale. The Port Vale Football Club resides here in the Potteries, in Burslem to be precise. The Potteries. Now that's the place they make pots, for which the area is world famous. There is another football club in the area, whisper it, Stoke City, just 2 miles down the road. Good tour guide me, you know. But in the meantime, let's go back to Burslem and the Pots again to gain a Port Vale perspective.
Vale always seem to be the poor relation, would that be fair?
Yeah, Stoke have been higher for far longer, but I've got to say we played a better football.
Is it hard work being a Vale fan?
Yes, at the moment, the league possession, but not too worried at the moment. Plenty of time to go, you know.
Vale fans have suffered more than most. Promotion, relegation, cup wins, cup defeats, all in the last 11 years, the length of time that John Rudge has been in charge.
Port Vale has been a big factor in me staying here for so long. 15 years is a long time. 11 years as a manager, as I said before, is a real long time.
But business is booming. In the souvenir shop, shirt sales rocketing. That's partly down to Vale's most famous fan. Take that, Robbie Williams.
I'm home. You carry on, guys. I'm
Robbie's Vale through and through. He loves John Rudge and the boys, and they like him too. It's all about raising the profile. So what else can I tell you about Port Vale? Well, John Rudge has nurtured some serious talent in recent seasons. Darren Beckford, Ian Taylor, and Robbie Earle, all big money sales. But all Rudge's sides play with a little flair, always with that bit of quality, that bit of style. They may be at the wrong end of the table at the moment, but things can change so quickly, starting today. What we can say categorically is a special relationship exists between John Rudge and Port Vale Football Club. Through thick and thin, it's almost unique in the modern game.
Will you ever leave here?
No doubt about that. I'm sure that they'll get fed up with me before long. It's a case that it's been a way of life for me. I am ambitious. I would like to see whether or not I could manage at the highest level. Whether opportunity comes, I don't know. I've had the opportunity to move on probably 4 or 5 occasions. We'll just have to wait and see.
Just a short trip for Lou Macari this afternoon. How do you greet John Rudge when you friend or foe? What do you say?
Both. He's done a tremendous job at Port Vale. I mean, over the years, the success he's brought this team and this club is unequalled, I think, to be fair. I wish I could run him out of town. He'd make my job a little bit easier.
I think what a lot of people don't realise is the intensity of the rivalry in the Potteries, which is not exactly a hotbed of football to the outsider, from the outsider's point of view.
The two gentlemen just showed they were, they were nice people. It can get a bit violent round here, as we might find out today with me being present. But the rivalry is no different to Manchester, Man City, Man United, Merseyside, Liverpool, and Everton. Here you're either Port Vale or Stoke.
What about Stoke yesterday? And how do you?
Not a lot. Yeah. We played poorly, and on the day, we're a bit lucky to get away with a 2-0 defeat.
Not really worth talking about. Unfortunately, though, you're going to have to see it. Lou's horror show, losing to second place Middlesbrough 2-0 yesterday. Here's Rob Palmer.
It was Lou Macari's turn to say, do I not like that? There could have been a hatful, but Wolves scored only 1 in each half. David Kelly benefiting from John de Wolf's flick. After plenty of shooting practice, Wolves seal the game in the 87th minute. Northern Ireland international Robbie Dennison with the eye for the spectacular. A great sight, Howard Kendall back in the dugout. Not that his influence had anything to do with Notts County's first goal. Burnley keeper Marlon Beresford with one to forget, maybe unavoidably Devon White in the right place at the right time. The second goal was a different proposition. Quite a natty build-up, big bad Devon causing chaos. Paul Devlin curled inaccurately. Burnley's fifth away game in the league without a win, Notts County's biggest victory of the season, all completed by Gary McSwegan.
Well, the permutations are pretty complex today. Port Vale could move out of the bottom four, but bear in mind Swindon are playing as well. What's more, against the leaders Middlesbrough. Of course, it was Wolves in settled place and the scourge of Lou yesterday. And that game, Swindon-Middlesbrough, clearly affects Tranmere. A win or a draw will take them above Bolton, who drew 0-0 at Watford yesterday. Oldham goalless as well. So what a significant Sunday it is. It's all a guessing game at the moment, so why don't you join in as well? Have a go to win the dough and try and predict the score of our Granada match live. Port Vale against Tranmere Rovers, 0891 4-0, 5-0, 8-0, that's the number to ring. On Friday on kick-off, by the way, Ian Rush plumped for Tranmere 2-1. He's a pretty good racing tipster, I'm not too sure about football. £200 the first prize and the 5 runners-up. A replica strip, take your choice, either Port Vale or Tranmere Rovers. So there we go. Quick prediction from you, Lou. Dare you possibly go away?
No, I don't. I think Port Vale, the league position doesn't do them justice. I think they'll get about a 1-0 victory here today. Tranmere are not very good away from home recently. I'm sure Johnny King will come here quite happy to get a draw. If he comes with that attitude, I think maybe Port Vale can sneak it.
Both like to play, as we said right at the start.
They both like to play. A lot of good players on the pitch. We're missing John Aldridge, obviously. A lot of rest on Chris Malkin, Ian Muir. But no, I still think Port Vale can get home today and get the 3 points.
OK, well, Lou's got to leave the warmth of the studio here and make his way to the commentary box. So for the time being, we'll make do with the company of Jim Beglin and Rob Palmer.
Thank you very much. Well, will it be Happy New Year for Port Vale? This is their New Year's Day as such, their first game of 1995. John Rudge is hoping the rest over Christmas and New Year will have booked his players' ideas up. They sit in a precarious position, third from bottom. No wins in 7 games, out of both cups. Skies are grey over Vale Park, and they have injury problems as well. The manager's been trying to sign loan players all week. John Rudge's dialing finger is red raw. After countless phone calls, he secured centre-half Kevin Scott from Spurs. It's a deal which suits both parties. Scott needs match sharpness, Vale need a defender. And Tranmere, well, they need a forward. With John Aldridge sidelined, possibly for another month, Pat Nevin's experience is vital. He's the captain today, back after a heavy cold. The Scotland star lends support to Chris Malkin and Aldridge's replacement, Ian Muir. Even the manager, John King, has suffered with the flu bug, which has swept through the club. But apart from Aldridge, it's a full bill of health, posing a selection problem for King. He's playing Tony Thomas on the right, Gary Stevens moves to left-back, and Ian Muir, who scored 2 goals in the FA Cup against Bury, is preferred to Gary Jones in attack. Referee today is Clive Wilkes, 2 games in 2 days for him. He stepped in at late notice for the scheduled whistler Ian Helmsley, who's injured. So Tranmere Rovers in their change strip, I suppose you could call it, a kind of a yellow and black kit against Port Vale in their traditional black and white. Port Vale kick off, hoping their luck will change. 3 games at home in the league without a victory. Not that Tranmere's away performance has been that sparkling. Their only away victories have been pretty impressive against Middlesbrough and against Reading. It's Vale straight onto the attack with their leading scorer Martin Foyle. They're giving Dave Higgins a few problems. Foyle getting right to the heart of the Tranmere defence. Higgins in the team today in preference to Sean Garnett, and given a free kick away in the opening minute in a very dangerous position. Ray Walker squares the ball, Guppy tries the shot and it wasn't far away. Jim Beglin.
Well, always worth a try early in the game. I think Ray Walker initially thought about the cross, but then just touched it to his side, and Steve Guppy never really had it on target, just got away from a little bit, but worth a try.
Steve Guppy, who came earlier in the season from Newcastle United. It is Stevens wearing the number 2 but playing in the left back role. And he's played at the very highest level, of course, almost 50 caps for England, played in World Cup and European Championship encounters as well. Of course, managers from around the country take a Sunday afternoon to come and have a look at the teams playing on Sundays. Howard Kendall, new manager of Notts County, is in the director's box today, spying on a couple of teams who are in his new division. Dave Higgins plays the ball out again. It's all Port Vale in the opening couple of minutes. Vale, as I was saying, haven't won in 7 games, losing 5 of those and drawing 2. A little bit of a crisis of confidence. It's not evident in the opening minutes. Kenny Irons giving the free kick away.
Well, Vale are never an easy team to beat here in the Potteries, and I think that's what they've got to do now to get themselves out of trouble. When teams come here, they've got to set a good high tempo early on. That's what they're trying to do now.
So it's Guppy's free kick, and wasn't far away from Robin van der Laan, the long-haired Dutchman. One of their classier players. And heading is one of his strongest points.
It was well driven, never easy to defend those. Whipped across the 6-yard box. A lot of players coming in on it. Could easily get a touch and end up in the back of the net.
Lou Macari's joined us now in the commentary position. Got his breath back. How's it going to go, Lou?
Well, I think it'll be a tight game. Tranmere haven't had the best of joy away from home in recent weeks, and Johnny King will be quite happy to get something out of today's game. You know, when you're sitting up near the top of the league, Rob, if you get a point, you go away quite happy, especially from a place like Port Vale, where I don't feel the results have done them justice.
This is Ian Muir, who's worked his way back into the team with those goals last week, but a soggy pitch in the centre. It's the better of Morrissey. Now Tranmere have their first real chance to build from the back. It's McGreal. Yeah, Howard Kendall backing football, the new manager of Notts County. Victory yesterday for his new club. Morrissey. Spread it to McGreal. Looking to the far post where there's the height of Malkin. Nods it down, but nobody waiting to pray. Port Vale clear the ball, looking for Foyle, but up there first was Higgins. Pat Nevin, captain today in the absence of John Aldridge.
Well, on that last Tranmere attack, Pat Nevin could have probably supported Chris Malkin a little bit better there. Ian Muir could have got his finger out as well. It was a great ball from John McGreal to the far post, and Chris Malkin backpedaled, got a good header down, but absolutely no other Tranmere player followed it up to support him.
This is Foyle taking on 2 players, and Stephen gives away the corner. It's been all Port Vale so far, Luke.
Well, you expect that at home, Rob, when you come up here to Port Vale. Put a lot of pressure on you early on. If they get a goal, you know, that's obviously not that's the detriment of the away team, Tranmere, who want to keep a clean sheet early on, hold them out for as long as possible, and then go on to maybe have a few attacks themselves. But as predicted, Port Vale on the attack.
Corner comes in, Nixon comes and claims it well. Got 8 to 9 yards off his line.
Well, his last corner was a little bit better. It was whipped in lower, but that time the wind just got hold of it a little bit, held it up in the air and made it easy for Nixon to come and take the catch.
Ian Muir miscontrols, and Port Vale packing it at the back and trying to send Foyle away as often as possible. He's their leading scorer with 12 goals this season. Hello, Mum. Van der Laan, strong player in the centre midfield to Neil Aspin. Port Vale trying to build through midfield. Have more of the possession, but no real shot at goal as yet. Naylor up against John McGreal, a highly rated John McGreal, who's been attracting the interest of Premiership clubs this season.
I think a big problem Port Vale have had earlier in the season, John Rudge tried 3 strikers up front, the 2 that are playing today with Lee Glover, and he found that his midfield were getting a little bit exposed, so he's gone back to the 2 strikers up front, packing his midfield, and he would hope in the coming weeks that he gets a few results under his belt and Port Vale get out of that bottom spot.
Gary Stevens looking for Malkin, but the passing hasn't been quite accurate enough as yet. They need to get the playmakers into the game, such as Morrissey and Nevin. That's a good run forward from Tony Thomas, who's back in the Tranmere team after well, a year of injury problems really. He's fully fit. Didn't have the pace to get on the end of that pass though.
You need to be fit to play here today, Jim. This is a very demanding pitch. It's long, it's wide, and if you can't last the 90 minutes, you'll be found wanting towards the end of the match.
And not only that, as we saw from Tony Thomas there, when the ball was played over from John Morrissey, and then the wind could make it a little bit difficult. It's not the worst in the world, but it's still bad enough to affect little balls over the top like that. That's what happened. Too strong, and the wind took it out.
It's Malkin who's got the pace, and well, his cross really, has to be said, wasn't good enough after really pumping his lungs to get there. Here he's got a second chance if he can steady himself. Breathing down his neck is a loan signing Kevin Scott, but Port Vale defending well.
Yes, Kevin Scott's come in from Tottenham, and he just might take some time to settle, Jim. You know, he's been in that Tottenham defence earlier on the season, which didn't do too well. He was just found wanting a little bit of pace there, albeit against Chris Malkin, but he just found a little bit wanting, I felt, for pace.
Well, it often works out like that. When you've not played for a while, adrenaline tends to get you through the first game or two, but then you rely on your fitness, and it's not quite there for Scott at the moment. And when Malkin gets into his stride, he can be quite a handful. I'm sure he's going to give Scott a hell of a testing afternoon.
Referee deciding that a combination of Port Vale tackles wanted a free kick to Tranmere, taken by Stevens. A real target man in the Tranmere team. Malkin playing that role today. This is Pat Nevin. Nevin losing the ball out. Tranmere, of course, suffer from these nerves in front of the TV cameras. 10 Sunday games they played without a victory. Their recent form suggests that they could end all of that today. Boyle. Wide it comes, but the linesman has been very sharp right under his nose. I think it was Steve Guppy who was in an offside position. Tranmere Rovers sitting in 4th position, victory today, and up they go into 3rd. Indeed, if they draw the game today, they, by virtue of scoring goals, they can move up a position as well. As Lee was saying, the problem for Tranmere has been scoring goals away from home. Only 9 away goals in comparison to 31 at home, but they go on the attack now through Morrissey. Ball drops, worth a shot from Irons. Back to Morrissey. They're lining up in the centre, the yellow and black shirts, and Morrissey gets a corner out of it. Kevin Scott proving his worth on his debut for Port Vale.
I didn't feel there, Jimmy. He had to show his worth, because I mean, he's confronting Johnny Morrissey. Isn't the actual position for a big centre-half who's facing Johnny Morrissey on the edge of the box.
And Vale are well aware of his threat. They had 2 or 3 defenders confronting Morrissey then.
Irons corner kick tried. An attempted flick on from Dave Higgins, but the ball is cleared. Neil Aspin and Scott there trying to form a partnership. Scott only signed at the end of last week, so they really haven't had much time to get a team pattern together. And Rudge's hand has been forced through. Well, a huge list of injuries here at Vale Park. No real wind around the Burslem area, but it's a miserable day and it's beginning to rain a little heavier. The pitch is extremely heavy down there. The ball falls to Van der Laan, steadies for the shot, and it wasn't far away. Robbie Van der Laan has been one of the most enthusiastic players for Vale so far. 2 chances in the opening 12 minutes.
Yeah, lovely ball into Van der Laan, takes it lovely on his chest, and from there, believe it or not, I would have fancied Robin Van der Laan. He's got a really powerful shot. Had it been on target, it could have been a goal. Unfortunately, when you miss that target, everything's gone.
I think he just lost his footing slightly as he went to hit it the first time, and that little delay cost him. I think he was still off balance, but it wasn't it beautiful the way he took the ball in his chest and beat Liam O'Brien all in one go.
Stevens.
Hate to say it, Jim, but that's the skills of a Dutchman.
There he is again. Former youth Dutch international. Not easy to say. That's McGreal with a strong header. Ray Walker back to near full fitness in the Vale midfield and gliding past defenders. That's not a bad pass in either, and a shot coming in from Bradley Sanderman, who's broken from a defensive role. And it's Vale who are doing all of the impressing at the moment. Pat Nevin loses the ball in the middle of his own field. He's really looking to get away with that, Nevin. And again, now Liam O'Brien. Thomas. Players peel off left, right and centre. Finds the feet of Malkin. Ian Moore maybe a little bit too far out for him to have a shot, but he has a go. And forces the first real save of the game from Paul Musselwhite. Ian Moore still the club's all-time record scorer, despite the arrival, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago now, of John Aldridge.
Well, it's promising. Shots from both ends in the last couple of moments, and that time Muir did well to keep it on target, but was never really any trouble for the goalkeeper.
Tankard for Vale. Now Guppy. Van der Laan to Walker. Good movement in midfield, and Port Vale with some classy stuff. Can they move the ball forward? Stretching Tranmere. Van der Laan stretches his legs. Here's a chance. And again, not far away. It's been a case of several near misses for Vale. Tony Naylor with that attempt. Warming the hands and the hearts of the Vale fans.
Well, that was all down to the strength and power of Robin Van der Laan, who received a lovely ball from Ray Walker, forced his way through, and Tony Naylor in the box where he likes to be. And again, Tony Naylor is someone normally would have been on target.
Well, it was almost very unlucky for John Morrissey there, because he did very well to get back as a midfielder to chase back with Robbie Van der Laan. I think he got the little touch and inadvertently knocked it into the path of Naylor. I think he was relieved to see that one go wide.
Ian Muir, the ball skipping off the surface, and by kicking the ball into the crowd, I think he's just showing his frustration with himself there. Muir, whose position at Tranmere is a little uncertain, hasn't always been in the manager's plans, but likewise John King wouldn't let him go to Birmingham, who made a £100,000 bid for him recently. Foyle. Playing the ball wide. Now it's Guppy. It's 3 on 3 if he could get the cross in, but an excellent tackle from John McGreal. Walker. To Guppy. Just an out-and-out winner. Skips past one challenge and two. Nice little body swerve. Not a bad cross. But Nixon commanding his 6-yard box. Good play by Guppy though.
Yeah, lovely play by Steve Guppy. Skipped past one, then skipped past another. Just unfortunately his final ball didn't land on the head of a Port Vale player, which was his intention. That's why John Rudge bought him for that width over on the left-hand side of the pitch. And he also whips in some vicious crosses.
Brave lad as well, because the first time he tried to go past McGreal got a good challenge in, but he went straight back at him again, and he beat him with no problem second time round.
Tony Thomas for Tranmere Rovers to fellow fullback Gary Stevens. Irons, little 1-2 with Malkin to Stevens. Good move this by Tranmere. Good solid challenge though from Sandyman. Nevin's cross could drop to anybody, maybe Malkin, maybe Muir. Again, Port Vale defending in numbers and defending well. Last time these two clubs met was in the old Division 2 back in 1991-92 when they drew 1-1 here. Tranmere won 2-1 at Prenton Park. Tranmere not too comfortable in the Potteries today. Aaron Nixon just calming things down in front of him a little. Vale, in fact, were the first team to come to Prenton Park this season and escape with a point when they got a 1-1 draw earlier in the season.
I think already Tranmere will know they've got to get a little bit tighter on Steve Guppy, particularly Tony Thomas playing it right back. He's on a few occasions now, the Port Vale left winger has got good crosses in, and if that carries on, McGreal and Higgins back there are going to be in for a busy afternoon.
Tell you what, Lee, you can maybe explain this as a manager. I can never work out why teams are so Jekyll and Hyde home and away. It's just a football pitch, isn't it, after all?
Well, I can't explain that either, because we went to Mullen
yesterday
and didn't kick a ball and lost 2-0. There is a fair point, Rob. It's hard to understand sometimes. You go and watch a game and your away team doesn't really perform. You go and watch them the following week playing on their home ground and they look wonderful.
The referee getting to grips early on. There's a bit of argy-bargy there between John McGreal and Martin Foyle. More on the part of Foyle, it has to be said. And the referee, Mr. Wilkes, just stamping his authority, really. Little word in the ear hole of two of them, and this silly situation is sorted out. Getting a little bit niggly. Gary Stevens getting caught in the ankle tapping allegations. Van der Laan, Naylor. And again, Van der Laan steadies himself for the shot. He's showing Willing offside though. Van der Laan, who's been at the club almost 4 years now, was dropped in October, but apart from that has been a virtual ever present. Muir for Tranmere, but Ray Walker's back, and the captain today, Neil Aspin, clears the ball to Naylor. Van der Laan runs into Liam O'Brien. It's brought from Kevin Scott, the man on loan from Spurs. Port Vale do move this ball around pretty sharply when they go on the attack. Foyle just went the wrong way really when Gary Stevens had slipped there. Stevens recovers well and shows a little bit of class.
That's great defending from Gary Stevens there. Right, he's a right back, prefers to use his right foot, but in saying that, once you create that bit of space for yourself, even on the left-hand side, you'll have all the time in the world to play, and that's what he did there. Good work.
Thomas to Malkin. Here Muir, where's the ball? On his right foot, looking for Malkin. Here's a chance! Oh, great, brave save by Musselwhite. Saving the ball and taking Chris Malkin out as well. And Musselwhite sportingly throws the ball out of play, and both players realised then it was a 50-50 ball, and both went 100% for it.
It was a bit unfortunate here, Chris Malkin. He lays a lovely ball off to Muir. heads for the box again. A delightful chip from Muir, just over Neil Aspin's head, but the ball just bounces up too high for him, and out comes Musselwhite and gets rid of the danger.
I think what's happened there, Lou, is Aspin has got a priceless touch from the top of his head, and it's actually hit Malkin in the face. That's why he couldn't control it, and the keeper was able to get it away.
Just enough to put him off, Jim, wasn't it? Just enough.
So almost a quarter of the game gone. Let's say what's happening down at touchline level from our reporter Rob McCaffrey.
Yeah, down by the Tranmere bench here with Port Vale, who've had the better of it so far. John King and Ronnie Moore behind me, manager and coach, are screaming for Tranmere to get the ball forward. They think that Chris Malkin's pace might be an asset here against Neil Aspin and Kevin Scott, who you mentioned might not be the fittest. It almost worked there when Muir released Malkin. Also, Alan Tankard, they feel, might not be the fittest. He was struggling this week, and they're looking for Johnny Morrissey to get more into the game. He could be an outlet as the game progresses.
Thank you, Rob. An insight into what's going on in the minds of the management down on the benches. This is Ray Walker to Sandyman. Naylor fighting for the ball. The referee takes a long, hard look at it and upsets the home fans by giving a goal kick. You've got good local knowledge here, Lou. Would that be a fair assessment, what Rob was saying down there about the injury, the Croc situation?
Well,
really?
he's got it spot on with Alan Tankard, because I know earlier in the week RUDGE was looking for a left back. He inquired about Brian Small at Aston Villa, and unfortunately he couldn't get him on loan for a month. So I think Tankard's maybe out there on sufferance today rather than being 100% fit.
I think to probably get Johnny Morrissey running at Tankard, they've got to get Liam O'Brien and Kenny Irons into the game a little bit more. But any time Tranmere have tried to come out and build, they've lost possession quite easily there. Ray Walker and Robbie van der Laan are closing the two Tranmere middle and midfield players down, and that's why they're finding it hard.
John Rudge really has been working extremely hard to bring players in this week. Scott may be the first of a few who he'll bring in on loan. He has a little bit of money as well to spend. Not a wallet full by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a squad which really needs strengthening. Neil Aspin, not even close to 100% fit, playing through the pain barrier at centre-half.
With the little bit of money he's got available, Rob, will he be able to buy anyone?
Well, we don't have better than anybody else,
£1 million.
You haven't got a few that you could loan him, have you?
Well, we haven't. No, we actually tried this week to get a player in ourselves, a Premier League player who's playing in the reserves, and we were quoted £900,000.
He's probably worth about £300,000 before the Cole deal, was he?
You're probably right, Rob.
Makes me wonder how much you two would be worth if you're still playing. Probably got about £6 million worth of talent with me in the commentary box here.
I thought you would have been a bit more generous than that, Rob.
Well, not reflected in your Granada wages. This is a Port Vale free kick to be taken by Guppy. Squared to Walker. Can hit a ball a little bit too far out. Tranmere get away with that, and so does John Morris here. And that has to be said, I suppose, was a confident back pass to Eric Nixon.
I think it was a silly back pass to Eric Nixon from that area. He could have turned, made his way up the pitch with the pace that he's got. The last thing you do is play a ball back into a crowded area.
It's not a pitch for goalkeepers nor defenders either, is it?
Well, I think more than anything else, it's not a pitch for passing football. Already you can see it's cut up quite badly, and if you're going to try and keep it on the ground, it's not going to run very smoothly, so that's probably why we haven't seen much passing moves up to now.
Well, the pitch will cut up. Hopefully we'll have a few goals, none as yet on this Granada match live. You could win that first prize of £200, so 891, 4-0, 5-0, 8-0. The lines are open until the first whistle of the second half. Predict the score, and if you get it right and come out of the hats, we'll give you one of the prize winners today. This is Muir. To Morrissey. Thomas's cross. Malkin praying again. Musselwhite dropped it, but I'm sure he'll say that he saw the flag had gone up. Chris Malkin almost scoring a few moments ago. And he went in bravely for that challenge with the goalkeeper. And had it gone in, would it have counted? There was a hint of handball. But I think our magnifying glass there showed that he'd used his head.
That was a very important touch from Neil Aspin. It clearly came off the centre-back's head, and that's why Malcolm wasn't able to control it on his face.
It's amazing, Jim, how when you see the replay, the slightest of touches can save you a goal. That's why when you're back there as a defender, any way you can get in the road of the ball is an asset to your team.
Naylor for Port Vale. Cross comes in. Tranmere with 9 players defending there. This is Aspen.
Well, you know as well, you can't have a more committed bloke than Neil Aspin playing in the heart of your defence. I mean, you know he's never going to say die. He'll go for everything, and that touch he got before proved all important.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, Jim Aspin's been the most productive player Vale have had over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Rock steady, gives you his all, guaranteed to put in a good performance week in, week out.
Well, he's a manager's dream, isn't he, in that respect, because even if things aren't going well for you, and one of your players gives you 100%, you can't really ask any more than that.
Higgins using his arms in an effort to get to the ball there. And Martin Foyle making a real nuisance of himself. Ray Walker, a good man to have in your team when you have set pieces. He has a huge array of chips and volleys, but this comes to nothing yet. Tankard's cross. Testing time for goalkeeper Eric Nixon.
Already we've seen, Jim, how evenly matched games are in this division. One slip from somebody will go in the lead, the other team will be behind. But every team you come across is so evenly matched, it just takes one break in the game to open up the game and for somebody to get in front.
Well, I'd agree with your comments before the game. I think Port Vale are a much better side than their position actually demonstrates, and I think Tranmere coming down here today, although they know they've got to improve their away form, I'm pretty sure they knew they were going to be in for a tough ride.
Well, without a doubt, you don't come to Port Vale and get any easy game.
When have you got them again?
We've still got to play them twice, Rob. The game was cancelled a couple of weeks ago, then we've got them towards the end of the season as well.
So, no goals as yet on the Granada Match Live. Needs somebody, really. Neither goalkeeper has been stretched so far. Maybe Kenny Irons can change all that. Liam O'Brien, who's had a quiet game by his standards, losing the ball in midfield. Andy Porter to Walker. Vale go from a canter to a bit of a sprint. Naylor's cross. Falls for Foyle on the volley, and he wasn't far away. Much better from Port Vale, getting the ball forward at speed and bringing their danger man Foyle into play.
Yes, this all started with Liam O'Brien at the other end of the pitch, needlessly giving the ball away, and on this big open pitch you can't afford to leave big gaps. Vale attack, Martin Foyle there, good attempt at goal, unfortunately again off target.
It was always going to be a difficult chance because it's bounced before it's actually reached Foyle, and it was on the rise, and he's had to try and volley it from an awkward position, but John McGreal did well because he stayed pretty close to him, and he just did enough to put the Vale striker off.
John McGreal and Dave Higgins, the Tranmere centre halves, have been working overtime so far. As Naylor twist past Higgins, sends him for a second time. How good will the cross be? Not quite good enough to reach Foyle. Danger still not over. Port Vale moving the ball around well. Oh, what a goal! As they say in the Potteries, take that. Alan Tankard let fly, and that was one heck of a goal.
Well, you only get those once in a season. It was a good move from Port Vale. Tony Naylor down the left-hand side tried to pick out Martin Foyle, and very kindly the ball broke to Alan Tankard, and I don't think he'll have any worries about his fitness after that one, because I'm sure the adrenaline's pumping now. Absolute perfect strike right in the top corner. Nixon could do nothing about that.
Just amazing, Jamel in the week. John Rogers looking for a left back. There's a doubt about Alan Tankard. He doesn't find a left back because no one will give him one. Who pops up with the first goal? Alan Tankard, the cracker.
And what a bonus for him as well. I'm sure he probably was concerned about his fitness, a little bit worried about how he get through the 90 minutes, but the adrenaline will be pumping after that. It's a marvellous strike.
Perfection, really. And Alan Tankard bringing the game alive. Now Tranmere have to take the play to Port Vale. Will they go through one of their kind of mid-season crisis? They always seem to do badly between January and March. A couple of years ago, on this day, in fact, they were second in the Division 1 table, and by middle of March they were down into 8th and 9th place. And Port Vale always come good at the end of the season. Their inspiration today has been Alan Tankard, the former Wigan fullback. Wind blows the ball into the arms of Nixon. This is Liam O'Brien. To Morrissey, who's been told to push on by the Tranmere bench. Asking Nevin and Morrissey to get more and more into the game. Morrissey getting around the back of the defence. Has he got a corner? He has. Tankard, who's come back down to earth very quickly after scoring that goal, getting in a good tackle.
Well, you can't ask for any more from your left back. Scores a cracking goal at one end. 2 minutes later at the other end with a lunging tackle that stops a dangerous cross coming into the box.
Paul Musselwhite gets the fist to the ball. Player still in places. This is a better cross. Well dealt with by Scott. The way it goes anywhere will do, but the referee is given Tranmere a free kick, I think. Not entirely clear why. Neil Aspin, the Port Vale captain, is leading the protest to Mr. Wilkes.
I think it was a slightly late challenge as the ball was been cleared there, and that's what the referee has spotted.
As you can see from those pictures, it's about, what, 28 yards. Paul Musselwhite, nevertheless, wants a wall in front of him. O'Brien spots that he was still organising the wall and put in a quick dipper. Well worth a pot shot as the goalkeeper was otherwise engaged.
Good effort from Liam O'Brien. He saw the goalkeeper on his left-hand post, knew he was going to struggle to get across to the right-hand post, and it was very close indeed. But from our point of view, that goal from Port Vale was the best thing that could have happened to the game, because I felt Tranmere started a little lethargically.
Van Delaan with the cross, and he put it to the far post when they were waiting at the near post. But the ball's still in play. This is Naylor. And there's almost a second goal. Certainly looked as though it was flying in. Steve Guppy coming in from the back. And Port Vale have really come alive. But should that have been a second?
Well, I think Steve Guppy did exceptionally well to get in there for this attempt. Tony Naylor goes out, lovely little body check there, picks the ball up, squares it across the face of the goals. Guppy's there. Unfortunately, someone just got in his road and done enough to put him off.
It was John McGreal. No surprise to see John McGreal. He was the one that just put Steve Guppy off. And that's good defending from McGreal yet again.
It's kind of invisible play, that, as well, because if a goalkeeper makes a stop like that, he's hailed as a hero. But I imagine about 90% of the fans would miss that kind of play, wouldn't they?
Well, that's the value of a quality centre-back, and John McGreal's having an outstanding season. No surprise to me to see him get in those positions and make those decisive blocks.
So, it's amazing what a goal can do for a game. The place is buzzing now, especially with some of the football that Port Vale are playing all of a sudden. Ray Walker leading the charge. Out for a pass, but Kenny Irons getting back and checking back, and Gary Stevens trying to calm things down, but instead applies pressure. And sadly, Bradley Sandeman, the right back, not following the example of the left back Alan Tankard, who scored this goal a moment ago.
You won't see a better goal. Tremendous strike. Eric Nixon, absolutely no chance.
On this week's transfer for him. He's probably just doubled his price, hasn't he? He's probably worth about £1 million now. So we have a goal. Is that also your prediction for the What's the Score competition? You can see the number. The line's still open and very busy, I understand.
I thought before the game, Jim, with the two wingers Tranmere play with, Johnny Morrissey and Pat Nevin, on this big pitch, if they weren't tucking in and doing a job for their midfield partners, I thought maybe it would cause them a few problems. And we've already seen Robin van der Laan rampaging forward, nearly scoring 2 goals. I just feel this is going to have to be a working day for Tranmere, and all over the pitch they're going to have to work for one another.
Yeah, I go back to my earlier point. I don't think Tranmere started very well at all. I mean, Vale set the tempo early on, and Vale have been dictating the pace ever since. Tranmere, for the first half an hour of this game, to me, just seemed to be trying to get by without really going for it. You would have thought Port Vale were the team in 4th position in the first division at the moment, as opposed to Tranmere.
Well, as you know, Jim, teams at the bottom sometimes rise to the occasion, show a great deal more tenacity than a team up at the top like Tranmere, which sometimes is hard to understand, but it does happen in football, and I think we're seeing that today with Port Vale. They're desperate to get away from that bottom of that table. Tranmere look as if they've just finding it a little bit difficult to get to grips with this game up to now.
Well, definitely Port Vale want it more so far.
So I wonder if that has changed the thoughts of the coaches and the managers down at touchline level. We'll hear from Rob McCaffrey in a moment. Once the danger is over, but Gary Stevens gives the ball away. This is Walker. Foyle is screaming for the ball and gets it. Oh, and he's a scrape of paint away from getting a Port Vale second. Well, they could have had 4 or 5 goals, really, couldn't they?
And Gary Stevens, of all people, we've just been praising him 5 minutes ago about wonderful defending, and their elementary mistake that you don't do as a defender allows Martin Foyle to get in there, and as we can see from the picture, either side of this post, it was a goal.
I think the worrying thing for Tranmere as well is I don't think anybody was expecting Stevens to get caught in possession in the first place, but when the ball did come into the box, absolutely no Tranmere player moved to close Martin Foyle down whatsoever. He was in acres of space in there, and he'll definitely be a little upset that went the wrong side of the post.
Well, down at touchline level, I would imagine Rob McCaffrey, there are completely contrasting views, aren't there?
Well, it's this interesting little cameo, Ray Walker and Liam O'Brien in midfield, 2 playmakers, and it's Walker who's having the best of things at the moment. And John King and Ronnie Moore urging O'Brien and Kenny Irons to try and get a grip of the game, to try and bring Pat Nevin and Johnny Morrissey into it. Lou is talking about them playing in a defensive role. King wants to see them in an attacking role at the moment.
John Morrissey throwing his body around. He was looking for the corner there, and he gets it. Fair comment, Lou? They've got to bring the playmakers into the match?
No, I think what Rob's saying there is either wingers neither doing one or the other. They're not attacking, they're not defending, doing very little for the team at the moment.
Morrissey dinks it in. Port Vale, it has to be said, are defending extremely well. Needs a touch of genius from Tranmere to score a goal. Oh, and it was almost an own goal, was it? Van der Laan with a diving header, and he had to be precise with that, because if put the other way, that would have been a rather spectacular own goal.
Well, it couldn't have been easy, because once this ball comes in from Morrissey, if you watch, Chris Markin is all over Van der Laan, and he did ever so well to hold off the big Tranmere striker and get the ball outside that post.
Malkin's flick. Higgins helps it on. Pat Nevin gets it wide again. Kenny Irons has a second stab. Musselwhite, the goalkeeper, calls and he's lost it. And Liam O'Brien, who stands 6'1", gave the goalkeeper a few kittens there, but though he's that tall, he's not a particularly good header of the ball, which is maybe fortunate for poor Musselwhite.
Well, again, he just about did enough, but he never looked confident getting there early on that one. His feet were a little bit on the slow side, and he was lucky that when it came off Liam O'Brien's head, it went harmlessly away from goal.
Pat Nevin spots Malkin making a run. Irons is beaten to the ball by the Vale defender. Flick on from Naylor. Foyle is battling with McGreal for the ball. As McGreal giving it away, I suppose that has to be shown as a clever piece of play by the Tranmere defender, if indeed he meant that.
I think since they scored the goal, though, Vale have adopted the right approach, Lou, because rather than sit back and just hope to weather Tranmere storm trying to get back at them, they're still chasing everything. Martin Foyle there closing down McGreal again. They're just not going to give up, and once they've got so much on top now, it's going to be difficult to see Tranmere getting back into it.
Ball through to Foyle. Nixon has to come. No other option, and a very brave save by the Tranmere number one. Oh, and that was a very mistimed tackle from John Morrissey, claiming he went for the ball. Maybe he did, but his timetable was well out.
Yeah, you're quite right, Rob. He went for the ball, lunged at him. Timing was well out, and he's going to go into the book, quite rightly so.
Bit of a frustrating challenge from John Morrissey there. Reckless lunge, no real chance of getting to the ball. I think the referee's correct.
Maybe I'll change my mind, Jim, about the two wingers defending for them after seeing that tackle.
Port Vale free kick. Away by McGreal. Turned by Scott. Well read by Gary Stevens, who's trying to dribble the ball around the molehills in the middle of the field. Not an easy pitch to play good football on, especially down the centre. John McGreal using the arch of his back well. He's got a real handful in the former Crewe attacker Tony Naylor. He's a good little foil for Foyle, isn't he?
Well, it's saying something when you get up and win your own header. Naylor headed it up in the air, and he still got there before McGreal for the second header.
The thing about the Port Vale front two, Jim, is throughout the 90 minutes they won't give you a minute's peace. They'll be at you time and time again. If you slip up, make a bad back pass, Foyle, Naylor, either of them have gone to it, and they'll punish Tranmere for it.
Well, what I like about him as well is that the work rate is so good at the moment. And then on Tranmere's last attack, Martin Foyle was the one who chased back over the halfway line to break it up.
Foyle to Walker. Sandeman is spared, and he's got a bit of space to get that cross in as well. Corner to Port Vale. Bradley Sandeman, who's still only 24, but he's seen footballing life, formerly of Northampton and Maidstone. And just a half a minute scheduled in the first half. Guppy's cross comes in. Nixon, well, he appeared to go up a little bit late, but he kept his eye on the ball and held on to it well under pretty intense pressure.
Did very well there, Eric Nixon. Port Vale are trying to do is they placed three men inside the 6-yard box, so it was going to be difficult for the keeper to come and take it. But he's commanding when given a chance like that, and that was a great take.
Wind seems to be blowing across the field from that far side to this side, as that pass suggested, but exquisite control from Foyle. Walker, Foyle, Van der Laan for Port Vale. Ray Walker just looking for an opportunity, took his eye off the ball, gets it back again. Gary Stevens goes flying in. And Tranmere regain possession. But imagine the players are in for a stinging attack from their manager John King at half-time. They're into stoppage time now. Ball out of play. I'm sure Port Vale will be happy to see the seconds ticking away until the referee blows his half-time whistle. They've earned their sugary half-time cuppa. Aspen. Maybe there's time for a second goal before the break. No, there isn't. Mr. Wilkes has seen enough, and it has to be Port Vale who are much happier. And one outstanding goal from their fullback, Alan Tankard. Rich applause from the Vale fans, and Tankard, who wasn't even expected to play today. He's not fully fit. They've been trying desperately to sign a left-back all week. He's done a good job at the back, and he's done a more exceptional job up front as well, with a peach of a goal, really, which Eric Nixon stood no chance with at all. So half-time score is 1-0. Let's go down to touchline level and hear from Rob McCaffrey.
John King, I think you'd be glad to hear that half-time whistle. They were very much on top there.
They've held the whip on. We've got a lot of work to do, you know. I'm glad the half-time whistle's come. We need to get in the dressing room and do a little bit of work, and hopefully that we can get out there and play second half.
Is it the key to get Pat Nevin and Johnny Morrissey more involved in an attacking role?
It's not just Johnny Morrissey and Pat Nevin, we've got to get the team involved.
OK, John, thanks very much for joining us.
Well, obviously John King has got some work to do in that dressing room at half-time. That's the way he earns his corn. Let's see if you can earn yourself a prize, either £200 or 5 runners-up by getting the score right. If you've already had a go and got Port Vale 0, you might want to try again. The lines are open until 4 o'clock. That means you've got 10 minutes to ring 0891 40 50 80 and predict the score of this afternoon's Granada match live between Port Vale and Tranmere Rovers. Just a reminder of the runners-up prizes: replica shirts. You take your choice, either Port Vale's or Tranmere's. All right, lines open until 4 o'clock. After the break, we'll be seeing highlights from the County Ground Swindon this afternoon, where the leaders, Middlesbrough, are in action. A game which affects both the top and the bottom of the First Division. So join us very shortly.
Oh dear, dandruff. Yes, it's definitely dandruff. Shampoo from the chemist, please. Could you get some, thank you? Yeah, shampoo.
Yellow Pages, supporters of the Granada match live.
Trouble with this town is everyone wants to be in the movies. That's pathetic.
Say, you want to be in the movies?
Me?
You've got just what I need. And cut! I love you and I love you. All right, now it's time for the close-up. Bring in the real actresses.
Give them the 106. I'd rather die.
Time is money. So how can Orange help you save it? We charge 1 second at a time for your calls with no rounding up. We include in your £25 monthly subscription 60 minutes of calls. One of 5 monthly price plans with minutes included. Call 0800 286 286 for full information about Orange mobile phones anytime. The future's bright. The future's Orange.
Anhagermergen, Mastercard.
Tous mes restaurants et magasins préférés prennent Mastercard.
Me Pili, Mastercard, aí a dar
Eu posso usar o meu Mastercard no Brasil e no mundo inteiro.
どこでも使えるから、私はマスターカードを使っています。
There will be no other plastic but Mastercard for I.
After every shave, new Link System Aftershave Gel with 2 active moisturizers takes care of your skin.
You are about to experience an impressive release of power. The government will soon be immediately selling its remaining shares in National Power and Powergen. To register, contact one of the many banks, building societies, or brokers offering a share shop service. See the list in the national press.
And cue Jonathan.
Oh, I like the whip of the whapper, well it around, and really relish the creamy white interior. Oi!
Hi there, egg pickers. I ate them whole. Not half. I've started, so I'll finish.
2 furlongs to go, and it's Leicester on the outside of Cadbury's Cream Egg, trying desperately to get on the inside, and it's going to be a photo finish.
Edgewick yours. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they definitely got a couple of slates loose. So have I walking around dressed like this?
Yellow Pages, supporters of the Granada match live.
And welcome back to the Granada match live here at Vale Park, where it's Port Vale 1, Tranmere Rovers 0. 5 minutes if you want to have a go at our competition and predict the score, the final score. 0891 4-0, 5-0, 8-0 is the number to ring. Say another 5 minutes or so, the lines will close at 4 o'clock. Well, it's never been tougher to get out of the First Division or the old Second Division. The only guarantee is to finish the regular season as champions. Now, the favourites and current leaders, Middlesbrough, are away to Swindon this afternoon. The commentators at the county ground are Ron Atkinson and Alan Parry.
Middlesbrough going forward now with Curtis Fleming, the young Irishman at left back, to another Irishman, Alan Moore, under 21 international in fact. Is Fleming again, trying to find more inside the penalty area, and the deflection took the ball perfectly into the route for John Henry to try the diving header. Looks like Craig Hignett might fancy a strike. Straight at the wall though, comes straight back to him. Oh my word, he didn't make any mistake with the rebound. That's a terrific finish.
Oh, that also shows what's happened when you're at the top of the league. I mean, he's made an out-and-out mess of his first one. Fortunately, the ball's flowing back to his left foot.
That's a good-looking one, and cleared over the line by Fjordhoff, who'll claim that. It was Robinson who set up the danger, but knowing Fjordhoff, he'll say, look, I stabbed that one over the line. It wasn't the best kick again from Nicky Hammond. He doesn't look too happy when the ball's played back to him. Moore. Oh, brilliant play by Moore. Oh, how unlucky. That would have been a magnificent goal from the young Irishman. 8 minutes of the first half remaining. Both sides unlucky, perhaps not to have taken the lead here. Bowden with the shot. And Swindon can count themselves unlucky again. That was a terrific effort by Paul Bowden.
Oh, he said go on that one, didn't he? As soon as the ball dropped for him, you can see that big left foot of his. And it is a good left foot. He's making up the ground here. And I must say, my money was only when he cracked it. I still think it's gone in.
Yes, rather a case of by the left in the First Division this afternoon. So 1-1, Swindon 1, Middlesbrough 1. Middlesbrough, incidentally, will have to play the entire second half without Curtis Fleming, who was sent off 2 bookable offences. We'll be back here at Vale Park, chatting with Jim in just a couple of moments.
See, your mascara's all caked there. Get your lashes tinted before the next match, okay?
Yellow Pages, supporters of the Granada match live.
Some cars in the £10,000 range can seem a little flat. There's no electric sunroof. Or they have a sunroof, but no metallic paint. Or they have metallic paint, but where's the airbag? Or an airbag, but no power steering. But the Citroën ZX Dimension has the whole shooting match for only £10,595. And a year's free insurance. The Citroën ZX Dimension. Discover what Citroën can do for you.
Look into my eyes. You are now fluent in every language.
Access, your flexible friend.
Enjoy levels of comfort and service among the highest in the sky from the Airline of the Year, 1994. Acid. Excess acid, often the cause of indigestion. Andrew's antacid tablets neutralize excess acid. They fizz refreshingly on the tongue and help relieve heartburn, acid indigestion, trapped wind. 2 tablets are so effective they can neutralize the acid in 5 whole lemons. When it comes to the acid test, Andrew's antacid helps give effective relief. And are refreshingly fizzy. Andrew's antacid.
Suck 'em and see.
More people are making the change. Isn't it time you moved over to Canderel?
Pussycat, I love you.
Hula, Dr. Ed.
Hula to hula.
The youth of today is unfulfilled.
I'll look into it. I see the problem. To hula the hula.
Are you fulfilled yet?
The yearning chasm of dark hopelessness that haunts the soul is... Oh, lighten up, kids. These things are fun.
There's a whole lot of hula in a hoop.
I'm a vampire. I haven't been human for 200 years.
Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Stephen Ray, Antonio Banderas, Kirsten Dunst, and Christian Slater.
Do not doubt! You are a killer!
Interview with the Vampire.
Panadol Ultra is a strong pain reliever that helps take care of pain. Get the strength of Panadol Ultra.
Well, the temp agency said I'd soon get into the swing of things.
Yellow Pages, supporters of the Granada match live.
Welcome back. It's 1-0 here at Port Vale. Jim's with us, and as a fully paid-up member of the Left Back Society, you'll have appreciated Alan Tankard's strike for that goal, wouldn't you?
Certainly, I wouldn't mind a couple of those during my career. He just got that little bit of space, and he knew he had to hit it quite quickly, and he did that. I think the Tranmere defenders thought, well, he's not really going to get it in from there, and they just sat off him for that split second. Just all it took was one touch, and more or less from a standing position, he's just picked a spot. And that is a great, for any striker. Andy Cole would be happy with that one, to mine Alan Tankard.
Thanks, Jim. Well, beforehand, before the break, we heard that John King was going to have his work cut out in the dressing room at half-time. And what John Rudge had to say, the Port Vale manager. He's with Rob McCaffrey to tell us.
Well, Jim Beglin's just enjoyed that goal. I think you must have enjoyed that goal, John.
It's a tremendous strike. A good 45 minutes for us and capped our first half performance, really.
Is it the TV cameras? But I don't know if it is, but it seems to be a real passion about your play today.
Well, we always got that. Let's hope that it continues in the next half.
John Morrissey and Pat Nevin hardly in the game for Tranmere in that first half. Do you think that could be a key in the second half for them? We've totally placed a guard against it.
Well, that's clearly the way the lads have played in the first 45 minutes. What we've got to do, we've got to keep that tempo of the game and keep working at them for the next 45 to win the match.
John, we'll see how it goes. Thanks a lot.
John Rudge talking to Rob McCaffrey down by the dressing room area. And it's certainly Mr. Rudge who's got a greater smile on his face than the scowl, I think it'd be fair to say, that we saw from John King as they were disappearing into the changing rooms. How do you see the second half going, Lee?
I don't really see it any different from the first, Rob. All Port Vale, unless Tranmere get a grip of the game, decide that, you've got to put a little bit of effort into the game as well as your skill that you've got. Up to now, it's all Vale. They look as if they're desperate for the 3 points.
What can you do to change it as a manager? Do you start even thinking now about a substitution?
Oh no, I think Johnny King at half-time will have been telling them, and the game's just not about when the ball's at your feet. We've got to get working. Port Vale have done that. Left back's popped up in the forward line. The right back, Bradley Sideman's popped up in the forward line. And we've got to be showing a little bit more commitment than we showed up to now.
Gary Stevens from about the same position as Alan Tankard, trying a shot, not quite with the same end product. But I suppose you have to give him 10 out of 10 for trying.
Well, at least he's ventured up there, the same as obviously Alan Tankard did in the first half. And it's going to take a little bit more of that to get Tranmere back into this game.
Arguably the best chance of the game for Tranmere so far as well.
Well, I'm sure Johnny King has probably said to his players at half-time, Port Vale are willing to have a go. Why don't you, if you get that bit of space? Look at what Alan Tankard did in the first half.
So no substitutions from either side. The Tranmere manager has Gary Jones on the bench, who is an attacker, along with Jed Brannan, who can play in a number of positions. And for Port Vale, there's Kevin Kent and big Joe Allen, a old-fashioned centre forward. Port Vale, who are 1 goal ahead at the moment. If it stays like this, they can possibly move up 2 positions into 20th above Burnley. Ian Muir, who's had a quiet game, but the kind of player who pops up when unexpected to grab a goal. There's an untidy challenge from the fullback. The referee bringing out the yellow card again. In fact, it was Ray Walker who went in. I don't think he can really argue at the showing of the yellow card, can he?
No, definite yellow card. You saw in the first half John Morris, he booked for a reckless lunge. That was pretty much the same for Ray Walker, and the referee is right to book him as well.
Showed a good example of Port Vale's commitment though today, Jim, although it was a reckless challenge. There was Ray Walker in the right back spot, covering for his right back, got in a challenge, he stopped the game. All right, he's been booked. I don't think John RUDGE was too displeased with that.
I think Tranmere will come back a bit better though, Lou, in this second half, because they weren't good in the first half. I know they've got a bad away record this season, but they just seem to accept that. That's the way they were playing in that first 45 minutes. They know they've got to up things considerably, and I think we'll see an improvement.
Gary Stevens put in the cross in, but didn't reach Malkin. Now Port Vale, they do counter-attack well. They have a bit of a dash in midfield, but John McGreal coolly plays the ball back to Eric Nixon. Ball is left by Tony Thomas, and he gifts it to Boyle. Now Thomas has a chase to catch Guppy, who puts in the cross, and he's bailed out by Dave Higgins.
I think it was a bit of trickery there from Tony Naylor. He was standing just behind Thomas, and he obviously shouted. Thomas thought it was one of his teammates, but it was clearly Naylor, and he picked the ball up. I think that's illegal, that, isn't it?
I think it is, Jim.
There goes Pat Nevin in full flight. But Ian Muir's pass really summing up the afternoon for Tranmere Rovers. It's been pretty miserable so far. Van der Laan. Wide to Sandiman. Referee having another word with Ray Walker. I think the referee was saying there, if I was reading his lips correctly, one more word and you're going off, which would be a very silly thing to do. With the more experienced players in the Vale team, you think he'd learn to keep his trap shut.
Well, Walker's got to be a little bit careful now. He's just been booked for a rather silly challenge, and that time he made a long 50-yard run, diagonal run across that side. John McGreal got there before him, and he just took McGreal's legs, and the referee was onto him in a flash.
Steve Guppy for Port Vale, full of tricks. Has he got a cross in there as well, and just hits the side netting. Has looked quite a player there this afternoon, Steve Guppy.
Yeah, I remember seeing him at Wycombe, Rob, and he's a real menace in that division to teams, and you just wondered whether when he moved up a division or two, whether he'd have the same effect. Of course, he's gone to Newcastle, didn't really set the world on fire, but I'm quite sure the purchase of Guppy to Port Vale will be a useful asset to John RUDGE.
What I like about him as well, Lou, is that once he beats a player, then he looks to get his cross, and he doesn't look like some wingers that can irritate you by going back to beat the player 2 or 3 times. Once he gets that bit of space, he looks to whip it in every time.
Well, he certainly does, Jim. No messing. And for someone like Martin Foyle up there who loves those sort of balls, I think it's a lovely combination that Port Vale have got.
John Morrissey showing a bit of grit, and Guppy may be a good crosser and a tricky player, but not a particularly good tackler. Morrissey with a free kick. He just delays it to allow one or two of the taller Tranmere players to join the attack. It isn't the strength of Tranmere's aerial ability. And Port Vale mopped that one up with quite a deal of simplicity, really. Porter to Van der Laan. Now they up the pulse. Harry Nixon's going to have to come out of his area to sweep that one away. Sandeman's cross, Foyle's in there, brilliant save! Eric Nixon to the rescue. And even the Port Vale players were acknowledging how good a save that was from the head of Martin Foyle.
A wonderful header from Martin Foyle, equally wonderful save from Eric Nixon. That's what I was saying to you earlier, Rob, about Foyle. In those areas, crosses in from either wing, he's very, very dangerous.
Martin Foyle, who's still the Port Vale record signing at £375,000, good value for money. And Tony Naylor, who cost £150,000. Well, his strength isn't exactly in the air, but he won that one again. And Eric Nixon, for the second time, in the right place at the right time. That one a slightly luckier save. McGreal reads that so well, getting there before the forward. Tony Thomas putting the foot in, but Tranmere just can't get this ball moving, and Port Vale at home could be playing with slippers on, they're so comfortable. This is Naylor to Foyle, it's 3 on 3. Will Foyle make the right decision? Good block by Higgins. Well, if you didn't know the teams and you were watching these two clubs for the first time, I don't think you'd be able to tell which one was 4th placed and which one was placed 22nd in the First Division. Kenny Irons curling the ball out to Nevin. It's a much better pass, much more encouraging for Tranmere. Stevens thought he was obstructed at least. The referee was well placed to say no. Now Bradley Sanderman for Port Vale. There's the Vale of Law behind him. It's a dangerous cross, well away from the keeper. Foyle climbs well again. Drops in the area of Porter, and anywhere will do from Stevens.
Almost the same combination again there. We saw a great Foyle header a few moments ago from a Sandeman cross. And that time they were back in business again.
Tranmere really, Lou, are just looking for somebody to lead the way in midfield, aren't they?
Well, they need a goal, Rob, that's for certain, and it doesn't look like coming from any department. They're getting completely overrun at the moment by Port Vale.
Liam O'Brien, who is their main playmaker, and that's a beautiful pass, setting away the pacey Chris Malkin. Malkin with Irons behind him, puts in the cross over the head of him, falls to Ian Muir, bustled off the ball, keeps his strength. Pat Nevin goes past him, had to be careful not to give away the penalty, and they're doing everything but getting shots on target, and that, I suppose, has to be credited to good Port Vale defending.
Well, I thought Pat Nevin took the wrong option there. He's heading towards the box eventually. I felt he had a chance just to get checked here and go down, and I thought he'd have got a penalty if he went down. But he decides to stay on his feet, cross the ball behind the goals, goal kick to Port Vale.
Well, the scorer, Alan Tanker, was the one who came across to challenge him, and I thought the fullback did very well there, because I think he knew that as well, that the slightest touch would have seen Nevin hit the ground looking for the penalty, and he did well to stand off from last minute. Nevin was forced too wide, and it was difficult to get a good cross in.
Tranmere possibly psyched up a little bit by that encouraging move from Neil Aspin couldn't believe that the referee had given a free kick there. It certainly looked as though the ball was within playing distance and he was shielding it. Not in the view of the man who matters, though, Mr. Wilkes.
He's got every right to be annoyed there. All he's doing is shielding the ball. It's up to the Tranmere player to go and get it. It's a bad decision.
The ball is curled in, and Neil Aspin leading the line from the back. What a good game he's had. Pat Nevin, who's seen a great deal more service in the second half. Still no way past the mighty Aspin. Kevin's cross in there for Malkin, gets the header down, and a good covering challenge from Kevin Scott. But it's just one of those little spells which Tranmere have to make the most of.
I think what's happened here is Malkin's tried to head it back across goal. I don't think he was trying to get it on target. He was just trying to get it in there for Ian Muir, who was coming in on the near post.
You see by the way that flag is blowing around in the wind, that it's quite blustery down there, difficult for defenders. Look at the strength of Tony Naylor. Similar type player to Tony Cotty. Squares it to Guppy. Good cross to the far post where there's foil, and there's a goal. A beautifully worked move from Port Vale from back to front in a matter of seconds, and on the shoelaces of their leading marksman, and it's 2-0.
Well, for me, Foyle's been the best player on the pitch today. I think he's had an outstanding game, and he's deserved a goal. But Tony Naylor, his strike partner, did all the spade work. He saw Gary Stevens try to control it. He's come in and nicked the ball away from him. He's made the run, played the ball inside, and as soon as Guppy played this in, there was only one place it was going, into the back of the net. That's an outstanding volley from Foyle.
Yep. Tremendous goal, Martin Foyle. Pinpoint cross from Steve Guppy. Lands it right on his right foot. Finds a corner of the net. Tremendous goal, Jim.
That's one of the best goals I've seen in quite a long time, Lou. It was an outstanding move, and Tranmere are in all sorts of trouble now.
So, Port Vale with a shock on the cards, it has to be said, I suppose, leading Tranmere Rovers by 2-0, and less than an hour gone. Well, and Jim, it was just at a time really where Tranmere looked as though they might be coming back into the game.
Often works out like that. Tranmere were doing their best. They were a little bit more committed, more determined in trying to get back into it. But Vale very dangerous on the break, as they've just proven.
John Morrissey for Tranmere Rovers gets a corner kick. It has to be said that Tranmere were 2 goals down at roughly the same stage last week in the FA Cup against Bury, and they came back with equalisers through Ian Muir last week.
You can't honestly see them coming back today, Rob, from 2 down, can you?
Not with shots like that, Lou, no.
I don't think there's any point in writing them off yet. After all, they're in 4th place. They've got to have a little character about them to be in that position. But saying that, doesn't look to be any way back now. But
this is the goal here. Just look how it came from a corner kick at one end to a goal at the other. We should have actually measured it on the clock there, shouldn't we, just to see how long it was.
Well, again, Naylor very clever. Just robbed Gary Stevens when he tried to control it on his chest. Took it up the line, played it inside, and Guppy found Foyle, who finished absolutely superbly.
From hazardous at the back to danger at the other end, all in the space of seconds.
I think it's one of those days, Jim, where as the away team manager, you look at your side performing, you come to conclusion it's just not going to be our day here. We just don't seem to be putting it together. And I think Johnny King will be down there saying, I don't really see any way back for us today, the way we're playing.
I think the thing that will probably annoy Johnny King more than anything else is the fact that more often than not this season away from home, Johnny King has been saying, well, why wait till we go a goal down before we decide to be a little determined and try and play a bit? That's what's happened again today. And as we've been saying, I can't really see any way back for them.
John Rudge, I think, issuing orders there to just calm things down in midfield and to sit on this 2-goal lead. Guppy has other ideas. Maybe Walker does. He can hit the ball from here, I can tell you that. Porter moving around Stephen so easily. Real panic in the Tranmere defence now. The shot comes in from Walker, and it wasn't far wide. He had Eric Nixon scrambling. I remember Ray Walker was the man who hit a spectacular goal against Tottenham Hotspur in the FA Cup, but about 6-7 years ago now.
Well, they'll all fancy a pop now. We've seen two marvellous goals. Alan Tankard strike from outside the box and Martin Foyle's volley. But I think that time when Walker got a bit of space to get a shot in, I think he actually just kicked the ground slightly. Shot went wide.
Yeah, they all fancy a pop at goals, Jim. Nearly every player from midfield upwards in the Vale teams had a shot at goals in the first 61 minutes.
Tranmere giving the ball away at the back and making it pretty easy for Port Vale. That flying header as such coming in from Tony Naylor, all stemmed from a terrible passer in the back. And Port Vale do move this ball around quickly and can punish you. Flick on, McGreal plays it back to goalkeeper Eric Nixon. Ian Moore heads the ball down. O'Brien looking for Malkin. Has to be said that Chris Malkin and Ian Muir haven't really worked well as a partnership so far. Would you be tempted to bring on the big youngster Gary Jones, Lou?
Well, not really. I think that's a decent partnership when they're on song. All right, it's not coming off for them today. But I'm quite sure Johnny King will give them the benefit of the doubt for this week and let them play out the 90 minutes. At the other end, I mean, Martin Foyle and Naylor have been exceptional.
I think it's not easy to form a good partnership though, Rob, if you've not got a supply. And for me, the Tranmere midfield just haven't got into the game at all this afternoon. I can't remember Nevin and Morrissey getting good crosses in, and Irons and O'Brien in the middle of midfield just haven't competed like they should. That's the difference between the sides now. Foyle and Naylor are on top of their game. They look like getting to the ball first every time and causing problems for the Tranmere defence. And if I were in the Port Vale back four now, I'd be looking to get the ball forward as early as possible to give them a chance to run it. Tranmere once again.
Certainly Port Vale not in any hurry to get the ball moving. With a nice little cushion to sit on of 2 goals. Every loose ball, every 50-50 ball is falling their way at the moment as Foyle tests the goalkeeper and the central defenders. Guppy gets the header in, and it certainly looked like a corner. Tony Thomas giving no clues away with his facial expression. The goal kick given.
Nearly every cross that's come into the box, a Port Vale player has won the header. Even Tony Naylor, a corner kick about 5 minutes ago. Littlest man on the pitch, loses John McGreal and gets a header in and goals.
Well, that sums up the difference when you've got one of the smallest blokes out there and you can peel off one of the best centre-backs in the whole of the First Division and get a header on target.
Tony Thomas with a long ball. Malkin up with Aspin. Paul Musselwhite has been pretty trouble-free this Sunday afternoon. McGreal comes away with the ball, showing a bit of commitment from the back, but Tranmere certainly haven't got their passing together. They struggle to string together more than half a dozen passes, which certainly isn't their style.
So with Johnny King down now I have to think about making a couple of substitutes. I mean, they've got Jed Brannan who likes to get into the box down there, and Gary Jones, a big striker. I'd bring them on and just try and get something out of this game at this stage.
I think the problem, Jim, is that they obviously need goals now. And both Malkin and Muir have scored goals from the past. Ian Muir's got a tremendous goal scoring record. You know, do you take off a proven goal scorer in your team and bring on somebody who just might get you a goal? I think that's the problem Johnny King's got at the moment.
Well, I'll probably take off at least one midfielder anyway, Liam. Maybe throw 3 strikers up there.
Differing views for the Sunrisers. Interesting to hear. I think John King was discussing that with his staff down at the touchline as well. Plenty of experience down there, men who have managed clubs. He's got Harry McNally, formerly of Chester, Ray Mathias, formerly of Wigan. Ronnie Moore, who is caretaker manager of Tranmere as well at one stage to call upon. What he could do with is some of those wise heads out on the field, because Tranmere are giving the ball away willy-nilly. Walker to Naylor. Twisting and turning, he's been a real handful. And the toe of McGreal only just getting to the ball there. Tankard, who scored that spectacular goal. All possession stuff from Port Vale. Porter to Walker. Foyle hustling and bustling, but runs out of play. He's edging towards his total of goals last year when he scored 21. A real rare commodity in football, a man who scores goals consistently. There he goes again. He wasn't quite aware the ball was going to come to him there. Martin Foyle.
Even better as far as he's concerned, Rob. Last season he was scoring them in a lower division. Now he's come up a division and he's still practically scoring the same amount. He's a class striker.
Big difference today, Jim, between the two sides. It's definitely been the 2 strikers at either end of the pitch. On top of that, both Ray Walker and Robin van der Laan, they've popped up all over the pitch, giving the Tranmere defenders another problem as well when they've come surging forward. And it hasn't happened in the same way for Tranmere.
You have to think, Lou, that if John Rudge can encourage his players to rekindle this sort of form and this sort of commitment week in, week out, that they'll safely get out of trouble. But then again, will they?
Yeah, I've never been any doubt about that, Jim. They've had some funny results, but everything seems to have gone wrong for them in the last couple of months. Teams were scoring goals in the last minute and they were coming away 3-2 losers after playing very, very well, I was told. And things have just gone wrong. Now they've got a lot of their players back fit. I would expect things to improve for them.
Eric Nixon having to play his way out of a very tricky situation there. Maybe he should have whacked it first time, but to be fair to him, he didn't get a great deal of support from his defenders. Massive kick from the Tranmere keeper, but a good header from Scott, who's warmed himself to these Port Vale fans on his debut. John Morrissey. Tony Thomas. Thomas continues his run. Scott with a clearing header again. As always, it's Naylor who's willing to find the ball, and Port Vale move it from back to front pretty swiftly again.
They do it very well, Port Vale. Foyle and Naylor both often break wide when they try to counter-attack, and they allow either Walker or Robbie van der Laan to come storming through the middle. And that's the key to getting good attacks built. Get the support up there quickly for your strikers.
Tony Thomas puts it across the far post. The goalkeeper thinks about coming and stays on his line. Almost a mistake. Liam O'Brien getting in the header. And a glimmer of hope maybe for Tranmere.
Well, I'd like to think so, but I can't see it. Sooner or later you must have an attack on goals, and that's probably been their one attack for the last 15 minutes.
Well, we thought they may bring on Gary Jones, but it looks as though Jed Brannan is coming on. He's a midfielder, a full-back, and off goes the centre-half, Dave Higgins. What do you make of that?
Well, it's do or die now, Rob, isn't it? I mean, as Jim was saying earlier, got to take some chances. They've taken off the centre-half, brought on Jed Brannan. Need 2 goals, as simple as that.
I would have thought Brannan would have played in a more forward position, maybe an attacking midfielder, position he loves best. But he's actually gone at left back, and Gary Stevens has come from left back in at centre back, so no real change as far as I'm concerned for Tranmere.
Dave Higgins has been one of the players who's been suffering a little bit with the flu bug. Missed the game last week. Coughing and spluttering as well. Possibly that's why he's come off. He needs to rub something into his chest. Same happened with John McGreal, the other centre-half, who played 45 minutes of a game recently and then was really struggling with a heavy cold, so he was brought off. We'll find out hopefully from Rob McCaffrey at touchline level whether that was tactical or a case of a player having the flu. Thomas. Ray Walker to Foyle, giving a bit of freedom. And for Naylor, but the pass went the wrong way. Nevin to Gary Stevens, who's been moved along to the centre-back role with Higgins going off. Bradley Sanderman. Port Vale able to play the ball confidently around at the back. Liam O'Brien trying to stop all of that. But everything is falling the way of a white shirt at the moment. It's just one of those afternoons. Port Vale are hoping there'll be a few more of them between now and the beginning of May. Liam O'Brien for Tranmere. Spots Nevin, hugging the touchline. Good skill from Nevin. Will there be an end product? Brannan, the substitute, makes a good run. Obstruction by the referee. There's an apology there, but that'll be little consolation. Well, he was up with play. You've got to say that for Colin Wilkes, haven't you?
Well, it was a definite yellow card there. Nothing's going right for Tranmere. Even the referee's playing for Port Vale now.
I think the referee should be yellow carded for that. I mean, it looked like it was going to be Tranmere's most promising move of the game. Brannan was just about to get his cross in. He was looking up to see who he could pick out in the 6-yard box, and the referee did the rest.
Said to you, Jim, when things don't go right for you, they just don't go right, and you can't put your finger on it.
Jed Brannan bringing the ball forward. Tranmere moving bodies forward. Squares it to Malkin. Back to Brannan again. He seems to be playing a slightly freer role. We can maybe hear from Rob McCaffrey down at touchline level in a second when the danger over. Rob, was that a tactical move, or was Dave Higgins struggling?
No, purely tactical, Rob, and Jed Brannan seems to be getting forward. Breaks your heart, doesn't it, when you get into a good position on the left wing and the referee checks you. On the Port Vale bench, John Rudge is like a jack in a box, up and down. He was buried in the stand in the first half, and all he's saying is to his fullbacks in particular is sit tight, keep it tight.
You probably thought they had a free kick there as Foyle was wrestled to the ground, but the referee decides not. We have 16 minutes to go. Port Vale certainly on top, looking for a third. Naylor is definitely onside, but the ball doesn't quite run his way. And it's walking pace from Vale now. Guppy. Well, worth a try. When you're 2-0 up, you can afford to take chances like that. As Lou was saying, nothing is going the way of Tranmere Rovers. Playing against 12 men, I'd argue.
You could see Brannan approaching as well, but he still managed to get in his way. All he had to do was take a step forward and he would have been in. And it was a lovely little ball through from Pat Nevin inside the fullback as well. But as you said, Lou, when things don't go for you, things like that begin to happen.
Foyle to Walker. This is a good move from Port Vale again. Going for the third. That was an important interception. Gary Stevens getting his foot to the ball. If he hadn't, it would have read 3-0 at the top of your picture. The difference between the two teams, passes like that from Port Vale are finding feet. In Tranmere, they're finding spaces today. Ball out of play.
Well, you'll be a little disappointed, Tony Naylor, because he worked so hard, determination written all over his face as he ran to try and get on the end of Neil Aspin's long ball. It was just about 6 inches that beat him in the end.
Well, some important gales coming up for Port Vale. Southend away, Sunderland and West Brom as well. Their next matches as they try to haul themselves up the Division 1 table. Looks as though they could go above Burnley if it stays like this. All depends how Swindon do against Middlesbrough. You'll be seeing the highlights and the goals of that game as soon as we get to the full-time whistle here. And of course the goals as well from your inter-league clubs as well. Chris Malkin. It was foul. The referee gives a good advantage to Tranmere. Neville thinks in the cross and away by Scott.
He's a player. There's a player, Kevin Scott, on loan from Spurs, who was probably fearing the worst when he signed on loan for Port Vale. Probably feared that it was going to be a slog week in, week out, but he'll be enjoying it out there now.
They go for a third. It's Naylor, blocked by McGreal. Boyle. They go to Van der Laan, and that was glorious. Robbie Van der Laan. Well, he was, what, about 35, maybe 40 yards out there when he had the shot. And Vale today have had that eye for the spectacular. He had so much time and space, really, to steady himself. Had a look up, checked it, and they're flying in from all directions.
I think the question you've got to ask, Rob, is when these midfield players are steaming forward, where's their opponents? When we see Van der Laan picking the ball up there, nearest player to come to him, I think, was Gary Stevens.
Yeah, I think Stevens knew he wasn't going to get to the pitch of the ball before Van der Laan actually took a shot. It was only a half-hearted attempt, just jumped in the air to try and block it. And Van der Laan was so unlucky not to make it three.
Nevin, nice ball through. Can they keep it in play? Can they get a goal? An important touch. I think it was a combination of goalkeeper and defender Neil Aspin there. Stevens, the centre half, up from the back as O'Brien puts a shot in. Curling it the wrong way, the Republic of Ireland international.
I think what happened to O'Brien here, just as it came to him, it took a little bit of a bobble at the last minute and consequently didn't get right behind it.
And O'Brien hasn't scored a goal since September. It's noticeable that Tranmere have thrown 4 players into permanent attacking positions now, forcing Port Vale onto the defensive. And Muir has a chance, the best chance he's had. He hit the target at least, but Paul Musselwhite was standing there.
Yeah, I think Ian Muir seen this very late. I think it was Robin van der Laan, should have jumped, decides at the last minute that he can't get there. And with only a fraction of time to spare, Muir gets a header in. Easy for Paul Musselwhite.
Reflex header really, I suppose, wasn't it?
I think John Rudge will probably be slightly concerned now. Rob McCaffrey said before that he was screaming at his fullbacks to just sit there. He wants the side to retain possession, but they're giving away a little bit too much now for his liking, and if this carries on they could face a worrying last 10 minutes.
Well, the frowns at the moment are on the faces of Tranmere. A free kick in another dangerous position. Foyle winning the race to the ball there, and Gary Stevens, in the opinion of the referee, coming from behind and committing the foul. Right under the beard of the linesman. Van der Laan, well, I tell you what, had a good view that I could have swore he was pushed off the ball there, but the referee was 50 yards closer to it. I don't know if he was actually looking at the incident, but I think Tranmere got away there with a potential penalty. We've got a difference of opinion in our summarisers. We'll see it again in a second. Van der Laan's header. This is Guppy. Referee desperately trying to get out of the way. This is Foyle. Sandeman. Spare man in the middle. That man is Foyle with a diving header. Could have been Port Vale 3, Tranmere Rovers 0. Could have been Martin Foyle's second goal of the game. He was left so spare.
Well, that's the question you must ask yourself. Why was he left with so much room? I mean, he is a dangerous centre forward. We've already seen it today with the goal that he scored. And then again, he's left completely unmarked.
This is the penalty from a second ago. Jim, you said no. Lou, you said yes. Change your minds?
No, I don't change my mind. I don't think you're allowed to push people in the box.
Well, Liam O'Brien put his arm up. I don't deny that for 1 second, but I don't think it was with the force that was going to push Robbie van der Laan over. And the one thing I looked for was van der Laan's reaction as soon as he went down, and in no way did he approach the referee to claim a penalty.
You convinced, Lou?
No, not really.
There's one Irishman sticking up for another Irishman there. We may see it again in a minute, Jim, and maybe we'll change our minds. 7.5 minutes to go.
Rob.
So
I don't think it's going to matter at this stage. Port Vale, they're everywhere. I mean, the midfield players are attacking, they're back defending.
This is Guppy for Vale. Don't think a third would be an injustice, really. Jed Brannan clears the ball. Pat Nevin. Porter steals it off him. Ball goes out of play. Jim, we'll see this penalty again. Talk us through it. This wasn't a penalty, right?
Well, Liam O'Brien just steps across. It's just a little nudge, but for me, Robbie van der Laan has gone down way too easily there, and his reaction proved that he didn't go to the referee at all.
Well, I can tell you that down at touchline level, John Rudge, Rob McCaffrey assures us, was screaming for a penalty.
Oh, well, you'd expect that from the bench anyway, wouldn't you? He's probably worried now that Tranmere may get back into it because they have had a reasonable spell last 5-10 minutes or so, and he wanted the penalty to try and kill it off completely.
Tony Thomas for Tranmere Rovers. Hoisted up there, hopes for a mistake, doesn't find one from Scott. Foyle's back helping out. If that clearance is more of a help or a hindrance, but it falls, as most things have, to Port Vale. Porter loses concentration, but still comes away with the ball and finds Naylor. Keeps his feet well, or he had done until Gary Stevens stuck both ankles in there.
All the skills are coming out from Port Vale. Now, what a lovely ball from Porter from the middle of midfield, with the outside of his right foot over Stevens' head. For a minute Naylor was away, but I think his first touch let him down, gave Stevens a chance to get back and make a great saving challenge.
Pat Nevin has come inside. Has he got the power behind the shot? Hits the back of Scott's head this time. Tranmere are going to have to pick themselves up for midweek when they play Bury on Wednesday in the FA Cup, and then they have a very tough game next Sunday in the Granada match live against Oldham Athletic, who are doing extremely well under Graham Sharp. Guppy full of tricks, does prefer the ball on his left foot though, and I think Thomas by now is wise to that. You see the little shrug of the arms really from John Morrissey there, who's looking for someone to pass to. Not getting a great deal of help.
Well, he's not getting a great deal of help, but today's Port Vale's day. I mean, even Martin Foyle's coming back in defence to make sure that they win this match, and that has been the commitment right throughout the Port Vale team. and there's never been any doubt in my mind who was going to win this match long before half-time.
I was going to ask Lou how much are Tranmere missing John Aldridge, but even a great goal scorer like him, it wasn't going to make any difference today, was it?
I don't think it would have made any difference today with the way Port Vale had played. And every team has their day, and today's definitely been Port Vale's day, and every team has their off day, and it's been an off day for Tranmere.
Just under 4 minutes to go. Jim and Lou are putting their heads together now to come up with a man of the match. The jury's out at the moment. Ball over the top, it's flicked on by Van der Laan. Foyle backing into the defender. This is Kenny Irons carrying the ball from midfield. Squares it at just the wrong moment. The Vale defender had got back to cut that out. Van der Laan to Foyle. Guppy. Guppy has space to run into, but it's time for the tricks with time running out. Puts in the cross, header by Brannan. It was a solid challenge from Thomas. Claims he went for the ball, and the referee thinks otherwise and is going to caution him.
As a former fullback, I think I've got to stand up for Tony Thomas again. Although, to be fair, having looked at it on that, he was a little bit high, and yeah, I think that's a bad challenge. Initially, I thought he got the ball.
I think the way Steve Guppy went down there, Jim, brought about the booking. I don't think there's a great deal wrong with him at this stage in the game. Probably wasting away the extra minute or so that he can and bring Port Vale a victory.
Guppy puts it in, and the ball goes out of play. So, man of the match, Lou and Jim, who's it to be?
Well, I think we've both agreed on Martin Foyle today. He scored that fantastic goal in the second half. Magnificent volley, but his work rate all around today has been superb for me. He's ran the Tranmere defence ragged, and any chance he has had, he's come back to help his defence as well. He's been brilliant.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Jim. It's been a pain in the backside for the Tranmere defence right from the first whistle.
Probably important to note as well, though, that he's been ably assisted in his strike partner, Tony Naylor. I think he's had an excellent game today as well, and Robbie van der Laan has looked quite cool in midfield.
Walker bounces off Tranmere legs and comes straight back to it. I don't know what John King's reaction is going to be after the game, but certainly luck hasn't run the way of Tranmere, and Port Vale have made the very most of that. Guppy sends Thomas. What a run around he's given him this afternoon. And he's quite a full-back as well. We're in the hands of the referee now into stoppage time, and there hasn't been a great deal of that. I think for differing reasons they'll be happy, these two teams, when the full-time whistle goes. Port Vale for the win, Tranmere just to see the end of this match. Stevens. Square to Tony Thomas. One final throw of the dice. And it comes up with a blank side, really. We're going to see Tranmere again next week. Jim, how do they improve it between now and next Sunday?
Well, I think their home form alone speaks for itself. They've won 10 at Prenton Park this season, only won 2 away from home. So I think we're going to see a better Tranmere side than today for definite. But I think Johnny King knows now that if his team goes out with the same attitude next week as they have done today, Oldham will also cause them trouble.
Here's chance, one final chance for a third. Is it going to bobble in? No, header from Brannan, the save from Eric Nixon. And what a little menace he has been, Tony Naylor. Nixon spread himself well, went down early. Guppy. Extra touch for the ball boy.
I think we all know with Tranmere, Jim, they're a different proposition at home, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them next week turn on a real performance at home in front of their own fans. They'll have to make up for today's performance, obviously.
So the full-time whistle goes at Vale Park. A huge grin on the face of John Rudge. A handshake of commiseration, really, for John King. And the drinks are on that man tonight. Alan Tankard, who scored a spectacular first goal in the 30th minute. The win completed by Martin Foyle, who's actually run around for 90 minutes and beating Rob McCaffrey in the dash to the touchline there. Port Vale this weekend, the toast of the Potteries. They'll be waiting for the Swindon result. They could be moving up. Let's go down and hear from Martin Foyle now, who's been caught up by Rob McCaffrey.
Okay, yeah, just about caught him up there. What pace? There's the Ensley man of the match. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I think you enjoyed yourself out there today.
Yeah, well, we thoroughly deserved the win. We've been playing well for quite a while now, but we haven't seemed to get much luck. But today I thought it showed out what a good side we can be.
Okay, it was a special goal from yourself. I think we can take a look at it. It was the pace of the build-up as much as anything that called Tranmere.
Tony Naylor did magnificent. And then a great ball here from Steve Guppy.
What was going through your mind when this was coming?
Just hit it on the volley and hit the target.
Oh, that's a peach, isn't it?
Well, looks better there than what I thought it was.
You say you've been playing well. What was the difference today, though, apart from the goals?
Well, we seem to have a lot more commitment, you know, which is, I know the fans think we've been lacking, but we've been having a lot of bad luck. You know, we're conceding silly goals, but hopefully we're on the right track now.
A good platform to build on, you feel?
Well, that's right, yeah.
Well done, Martin.
Thanks very much.
Congratulations.
Pleasure.
Thanks much indeed, Rob, and well done to Martin Foyle, man of the match. Well, on the chance count, it could have been 8-0 to Port Vale this afternoon, such was their domination. Well, after the break, we'll be seeing this afternoon's other First Division match, how that finished, the one between Swindon and the leaders Middlesbrough, and that's coming up next.
Look, I told you, I can't cook curry in a pressure cooker. Send out for a takeaway, will you?
Yellow Pages, supporters of the Granada match live.